We are taught that money is a science. We are taught that it follows rules, formulas, and spreadsheets. We believe that if we just find the right graph, the right stock, or the right crypto token, we will solve the equation of life. But we are wrong. The premise of this documentary is simple. Doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. Behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. A genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster. The opposite is also true. Ordinary people with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavioral skills that have nothing to do with formal measures of intelligence. Over the next hour, we are going to deconstruct the psychology of wealth. We are going to look at why you make bad decisions, why you feel poor even when you have money, and how to build a fortress of wealth that no recession can destroy. Welcome to the architecture of wealth. Let me tell you a secret about the human race. No one is crazy. People do some crazy things with money. They bet their life savings on a single stock. They buy houses they can't afford. They bury gold in their backyard. But no one is crazy. Here's the truth. Your personal experience with money makes up maybe 0.0000001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works. If you were born in 1970, the S&P 500 increased almost tenfold, adjusted for inflation, during your teens and 20s. That is your reality. If you were born in 1950, the market went exactly nowhere during your teens and 20s. That is your reality. When the person born in 1970 bets big on the stock market, they aren't being reckless. They are acting on their lived experience. When the person born in 1950 hides cash under their mattress, they aren't being stupid. They are acting on their trauma. We are all victims of the time and place we were born. So, before you judge your own financial mistakes, understand this. You are not a computer. You are a story. And until you understand the story you are telling yourself, you will never change your bank account. Let's talk about the two most powerful forces in the universe, luck and risk. They are siblings. They are the exact same reality. The fact that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. Bill Gates is smart. He is hardworking. He had a vision. But Bill Gates also attended one of the only high schools in the world that had a computer in 1968. If Bill Gates had gone to a different high school, there would be no Microsoft. Does that mean his effort didn't matter? No, it means luck was a lever that multiplied his effort. But here's the dark side. If you succeed, your brain tells you, I am a genius. I made the right choices. If you fail, your brain tells you, I was unlucky. Market was rigged. This is the self-serving bias, and it destroys investors. When you make money quickly, you must ask yourself, is this sustainable skill, or was I just standing in the right place when it rained gold? Because if you confuse luck with skill, you will eventually bet everything on a hand that you are destined to lose. Respect the role of luck, but fear the role of risk. The line between bold and reckless is only visible after the fact. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Capitalism is great at two things: generating wealth and generating envy. God, there is no limit to how much money you can make, but there is also no limit to how much you can want. Let's look at the tragic story of Rajat Gupta. Rajat Gupta was born poor in India. He became the CEO of McKinsey. By 2008, he was worth $100 million. He had everything a human being could possibly need. He was free, but he wanted to be a billionaire. $100 million was not enough. So he started insider trading, broke the law to make more money that he didn't need, to impress people he didn't like. Went to prison. He lost everything. His reputation, his freedom, his money. Why? Because he didn't know the definition of enough. Enough is not too little. Enough is simply the realization that the opposite and insatiable appetite for more will push you to the point of regret. If you cannot stop looking at what your neighbor has, you will never be wealthy. You will simply be a high-income person who is perpetually poor in spirit. The only way to win the game of money is to know when to stop playing. The human brain is not built to understand compounding. If I ask you to calculate 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 in your head, you can do it in seconds. If I ask you to calculate 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, your head explodes. This is why people fail at investing. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. But practically all of that wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday. If Buffett had started investing at age 30 instead of age 10, it stopped at age 60 instead of continuing into his 90s, few people would have ever heard of him. His net worth would be roughly $11.9 million. That is a lot of money. But it is not $100 billion. The secret to massive wealth is not finding the highest returns. It is not finding the next Bitcoin that does 1000x in a week. The secret is earning good returns that you can stick with and which can be repeated for the longest period of time. Time is the exponent. You don't need to be a genius trader. You need to be patient. Every time you interrupt the compounding process by selling because you are scared, or withdrawing money to buy a car, you are killing the future version of yourself. Plant the tree. And for God's sake, stop digging it up every week to check if the roots are growing. Getting money and keeping money are two different skills. Getting money requires taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there. Keeping money requires the opposite of taking risks. It requires humility and fear that what you've made can be taken away from you just as fast. It requires frugality and an acceptance that at least some of what you've made is attributable to luck, so past success can't be relied upon to repeat indefinitely. Michael Moritz, the billionaire head of Sequoia Capital, was asked why Sequoia was so successful for 40 years. He said, "We are always afraid of going out of business. Paranoia. That is the key. You need to be optimistic about the future, but paranoid about the journey. You need to believe that in 10 years you will be rich, but you need to know that tomorrow the market could crash 50%. This is called rational optimism. If you are only optimistic, you will take too much risk and get wiped out. If you are only paranoid, you will never invest, and inflation will eat your savings. You must be both, the builder and the guardian." In finance, there is a concept called tail events. These are the rare, 1 in a million events that drive the majority of outcomes. Example, Disney. Disney produced more than 400 cartoons between 1923 and 1938. Most of them lost money. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Then, in 1938, they released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It made $8 million in the first 6 months. That was an insane amount of money back then. Profits from Snow White wiped out all the losses from the previous 400 cartoons and built the Disney Studios in Burbank. One single event paid for thousands of failures. This is how investing works. It can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. Peter Lynch, one of the greatest investors of all time, said, "If you're terrific in this business, you're right 6 times out of 10. You don't need to be right every time. You just need to make sure that when you are right, you win big. And when you are wrong, you don't lose everything. Stop trying to be perfect. Start trying to be resilient. Diversify your bets. Wait for the tail event. And when it comes, let it run." We are coming to the end. We must answer the most important question. What is all this for? Why do we want the money? To buy a faster car? To get a bigger house? To impress people we don't know? If that is your goal, you will find that the joy fades in about 2 weeks. This is called hedonic adaptation. The only thing that provides lasting happiness is control. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, is priceless. It is the highest dividend money pays. Money's greatest intrinsic value, in this coup and be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time. Using your money to buy time is the ultimate luxury. So, the next time you are about to buy something, ask yourself, is this purchase buying me freedom, or is it buying me chains? A $50,000 car might cost you another year of working at a job you hate. Is the car worth 1 year of your life? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you must do the math. Not the math of dollars, but the math of time. Because in the end, time is the only currency we truly run out of.